Hello everyone, my name is Amaka and you're welcome to the Zama Stitches. In this tutorial, you're going to be learning how to make a cocoon jacket, which you can also call a triangular jacket. Now, if you've not subscribed to this channel, please click on the subscribe button and also turn on the notification bell so that you'll be notified whenever I upload new videos. So let's get started. I have 1 yard of fabric here, so you can use as little as 1 yard of fabric, or you can use 1.5 yard of fabric, depending on how big you want or how small you want your jacket to be. Now, this fabric is by 45. That is, from here to here is 45 inches, while from here to here is 36 inches. That is 1 yard, 1 yard of fabric. Okay. So I have my straps here. Now I have these fabrics here that I've cut out already, which I'm going to use to finish this part. Now what I have here is 5 inches. I have 5 inches here. This is 5 inches and this is 46 inches. 46 inches long. Now, but when you place it on fold, you're going to have 2.5 inches. 2.5 inches on fold. So the same thing I have here is the same thing I have here. I'm going to use it to finish this part and finish this part. So from this point, I'm going to mark half of my armhole, half of my round sleeve measurement. Now my round sleeve measurement is 12 inches. Half of my round sleeve measurement is 6 inches. So I'm going to mark 6 inches here. I'll mark 6 inches and I'll notch. So I'll notch this 6 inches mark. So I've notched it. Now the same thing I've done here, I'm also going to do it here. I'll measure half of my round sleeve measurement, which is 6 inches, and I'll notch. So now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to open the fabric just like this. I'll open it. Now take note, the part that I notched is the part that has this logo. That's the part that I notched. That's where I took the round sleeve measurement. While this other part is the length of the fabric. This is the length of the fabric, while this is the yardage, like the yardage. This is from here to here is 36 inches. 36 inches gives you 1 yard. I told you that the fabric I'm working with is 1 yard of fabric. From here to here is 45 inches. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew this part that I notched. From here to here, I'm going to sew it. I'll fold it once and I'll fold it twice and I'll sew. I'm going to top stitch. I'm going to top stitch with a straight stitch. I'm going to top stitch and I'll stop here. I'll sew from here and I'll stop here. So the same thing I'm also going to do here. I'm also going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to do it and show you the next thing to do. After doing that, after sewing here and here, I'm going to bring this band. I'm going to use it to sew this part. I'll sew this part and I'll use that one to sew this part. Now let me show you how I'm going to sew this. I'm going to place it right side facing right side and I'll sew. This is how I'm going to sew it. Now this is the right side of this fabric and this is the right side of this fabric. So I'm going to place it this way. I'll place it this way and I'll sew with half inch seam allowance. I'll sew it to this point. Now I'm going to sew it with half inch seam allowance and I'll sew it down. After that, after sewing with half inch seam allowance, I'm going to before I do that, I'm going to iron this. I'm going to iron it. I'll iron this fabric. I'll fold it into two and iron it for it to be easy for me. So I will start by sewing this with half inch seam allowance. After sewing with half inch seam allowance, let me illustrate with me. So I'm going to start by sewing with half inch seam allowance. I'll sew right side facing right side. I'll sew with half inch seam allowance. I'll sew it down. I'm going to sew it this way. I'll sew it down. Now after sewing it that way, I'm going to turn this. I'll fold in half inch. I'll fold in half inch and I'll push in the seam allowance. Now after sewing this with half inch seam allowance, I'll sew it down. Then I'll iron half inch seam allowance and I'll use it to sew here. I'll place it here on top of this and I'll top stitch. Now this is just for me to have a perfect finishing. Just for me to have a clean finishing. Now when I do this, the seam allowance is going to be inside. So I'm going to top stitch. Now the same way I'm going to do this, I'm also going to do this. I'll use this one for this one. I'll do it and show you the next thing to do. I'm done sewing. Now I've sewn here. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to fold my fabric diagonally. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to find the midpoint. I'm going to fold this fabric just like this, just to find the midpoint. Now this is the midpoint, so I'm going to mark it. So this is the midpoint. So now I'm going to fold this fabric diagonally, just like this. And I'll fold it like this. Now when I fold it like this, I'm going to sew it. So I'll take this to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew from here. I'll sew here. I'm going to sew it this way. Now take note, this is the right side and this is the right side. So I'm placing it right side facing right side and I'm going to sew it like this. I'll sew it to this point. Now this is the opening that I've already sewn. So this is the opening where this is my round sleeve. So I'm going to sew from here to here. I'm also going to do the same thing here. I'm going to find the midpoint of this one. Okay, let me find the midpoint. So this is the midpoint. So I'm going to fold my fabric. I'm going to fold it diagonally, just like a triangle, just like this. And I'll sew. Now I'm placing my fabric right side facing right side and I'll sew. When I sew, this opening is going to be here. This is my round sleeve. Now after that, after sewing, I'm going to give this a thorough press. I'm going to iron it and I'll show you the next thing to do. So after sewing, now this is what I have. I've turned it to the right side. This is the wrong side and this is the right side. Now this is the round sleeve. This is the round sleeve and this is the collar, the neck, and this is the lower part. So that's just it with this tutorial. I'm going to wear this jacket and show you what it looks like. If you found this tutorial helpful, please click on the like button. Share this video with your friends. Share this video in your sewing groups. Subscribe to my channel if you've not done so. Feel free to ask questions. I'll be in the comment section to answer all your questions. We've come to the end of this tutorial. Thanks for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.